So Printopia is a planographic printing process. With something like relief, we're carving into something and the image is sitting on top of our plate. Something like intaglio, we're scratching into our plate, the image is sitting beneath the surface of the plate. Planographic printmaking with Printopia or with any type of lithography, such as stone lithography or photo lithography, the image and the plate are on the same level. And so in order to transfer that image, ink it up and transfer it onto a different substrate, we have to have a certain kind of relationship between oil and water, where oil is rejecting water and water is filling in negative space. Printopia itself is a lithographic process, and it's a more accessible lithographic process than, say, stone or photo lithograph. Printopia itself is a polymer-based plate, polyester-based plate. It's kind of textured, and it allows us to draw on it very easily with grease pencils or pens or Sharpies. And also, because it's so thin and flexible, we can send it through a printer and print an image onto it. Some of the materials I have over here, we'll be printing with oil-based ink. Water-soluble ink is really on the rise and really has a strong just printmaking world, and that's great, and I love water-based ink. But with this product, you do need oil-based ink to have that reaction of oil rejecting water. We have a palette knife, we have a brayer. We can use a ballpoint pen for drawing onto our Printopia, China marker for drawing onto our Printopia, Sharpie for drawing on, and some litho crayons. Altura Art Supplies sells a Printopia solution where you can use that on your plate to sponge it up. I've used it and it's great. I left it back in my studio, back in Taranaki. I meant to bring it with me, but you don't necessarily need that, because what you can use is a bit of water in this container, a splash of gum arabic, and you can also use a bit of citric acid sprinkled on there. Now, what the gum arabic and the citric acid do is they make the Printopia more ink-friendly. For this process, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a drawing, we're going to scan it, we're going to print it onto the Printopia. But for this scanned drawing, it can be any drawing. It can be pencil, it can be a painting, it can be anything. I'm just going to use this litho crayon because that's what I have at my disposal. Just try to get some gradiating tones, and let's get a little happy face in there. There we go, there's my drawing. Thank you very much. This printer is a toner printer, and that's super important for this process. You can't use inkjet printers for this. You have to use a printer that has toner in it, the toner powder that creates the image. Because it prints on in a microscopic kind of dot pattern onto it, and that's able to hold on to our Printopia and accept the ink. There we go. Now it's printed onto my Printopia. It's just kind of further setting that image onto the Printopia. If you don't heat set it, what can happen is in your really dark areas, as you're rolling, those can sometimes lift off. And so the heat setting just really cements it down onto there. one thing I also didn't mention is I like to have a piece of acrylic or Perspex here. I use this to spray just a little bit of water onto it and then place my Pronto plate onto that. It keeps it nice in place while I'm rolling it up, okay? Now, this is probably the most technical aspect of this process, the sponging and the inking. And you have to kind of time it well and really pay attention to what you're doing, or you can mess up your plate. And so what I like to do, just get a wee bit on there, sponging the surface. You don't want to oversaturate your plate. If you have too much water on the surface of your Pronto plate, what's going to happen is the ink, there'll be too much water and the water will just be setting on top of your image, and your image will not collect the ink. You're going to want to sponge and ink it up several times. So there's a process of sponging, inking, sponging, inking, sponging, inking. When you bring your roller back over to your bed of ink, you're going to notice you're going to have to really work that ink back into the roller because you have residual water on your roller, and it's going to resist it. So you guys got to keep rolling until you start getting the hiss back. There we go. We're happy with that. Most printmaking papers will be fine with this. This first print you pull is almost always the lightest. So this one might be a bit light, but we can ink it up, and it just gets progressively darker. Yeah. Some Pronto plates, they only have a front side that you can use. These that I get from Altoa Art Supplies, I've been able to use both sides. Now let's see what it looks like when we draw directly onto the plate. I've found lithographic crayons to be the most reliable when you want to draw directly onto the plate and you want to get those kind of irradiating halftones in there. China marker is grease-based, but I find that it lifts off a lot with this process. I'm going to put some on there. We'll see if it lifts off if I try to do some light marks. Sharpie. Ooh, that's a little dry. We'll see if that still picks up. And we'll get some pen marks in here. Looks like the ballpoint pen isn't picking up, so I might want to either switch to a different ballpoint pen or see if that next inking up